everyone, and welcome to yet another episode on our channel Talk of Town. We are here under the series Beyond Boundaries, and this episode is specifically designed for entrepreneurs and budding entrepreneurs. So, if you are one of them, you must watch this. As usual, I have three suspects with me: Mr. Charan, who is a corporate brand consultant, Mr. Sarvotam, corporate law consultant, and Mr. Murali Krishnan, who is a startup advisor. Welcome, all the three gentlemen. So, I think we are convening this after a gap of almost 3 4 weeks. I presume we'll use this effectively to communicate to our audience on the interdependencies of the three professions and why an entrepreneur needs all the three of you with equal importance. So, going alphabetically, this time I'll start with Charan. No other reason. So, Charan, being a corporate brand consultant, how do you see the interdependency between you, a startup advisor, and a corporate law consultant? What's your take on it?
Okay, so this is very interesting in a topic because a lot of times people look at approaching these in silos. Okay, either they use one of these services and they don't really give the importance to the other, or they take it in very much in silos. Okay, so the aspect that we are talking on the interdependencies, I can take a simple example for somebody who is a startup advisor. One of the key aspects for a startup to scale is how they are looking at pitching themselves. Okay,
Yeah.
so when you are looking at pitching your brand or pitching your product or a service, there is a underlining current that goes about your brand aesthetics. So if your brand aesthetics is not there in your pitch deck,
Yeah.
then there's a kind of a miss of a focus on you seem to look like all over the place even though you may have the data points in place. So there's an aspect of brand aesthetics that comes into the picture in driving down the point on how serious and how focused you are and how much you have given attention to detail on putting together your pitch deck also if you're looking at raising a fund. Just taking an example with respect to startup advisors. Okay, then coming to the interdependency with respect to copyrights and intellectual properties, what happens is in a lot of situations, people forget to go about working with a IP lawyer or a copyright person to copyright their brand. They miss out on it and they go about investing a lot of money on doing the brand building. Then when they try to reach out to the person like what Sarvotam is doing, then Sarvotam will say, there is a 90% overlap in what you're doing with somebody else.
Correct.
Then all the effort, the thought process, the creativity, the groundwork, the colors, the aesthetics, whatever the energies that you have put together, whether you like it or not, you need to discard it completely for the better visibility for your brand and also for protecting your brand. So there's a wastage of money when you are looking at reaching out to a person like an IP consultant at a very later point of time. So there needs to be a parallel conversation while you are building your brand with an IP consultant. Then while you are scaling your brand aesthetics needs to come across on your pitch decks. So that's a kind of a simple take that I want to draw from both the other pillars that we have on the discussion.
Excellent. I think you put it very well. Possibly we'll hear it out from the other two gentlemen as well. Continuing our alphabetical order, over to you, Mr. Murli.
Yes, sir. See, just to continue what Charan said, Charan has nicely put across how interdependent, I mean, other functions can work together. For any, whether it's a startup or even mid-size or grown companies, it's not about merely, sales, revenue, you do, operations, then you do collection. It's not only that. There are a lot of other things apart from your sales and operations. So right from HR or accounts, compliance has so many subdivisions, right? Marketing, there are, I can keep on adding about 12 to 15 departments, 12 to 15 verticals.
Yeah.
For any business, all these departments or verticals are equally important. You cannot ignore. Very specific to marketing, if you say the brand positioning when we talk, right? A service or a product will have a larger audience today. For a particular company, how are you going to position yourself? Who's your target segment? What age? What gender? Right? So there are a lot of minute things. Based on that, only other strategies are devised.
True.
With that, I'll go to a company secretary or legal professional. How do I pitch this to, how do I ensure other compliances with regards to the positioning. So like that, there are a lot of interconnectivity between verticals. So definitely the growth will come only from, it's not, if you are delivering some, say, some kind of business, if it has to sustain or if it has to be consistently delivered, we need other functions to function equally well.
Correct.
So definitely it is not about one or two areas you strengthen and you don't focus on other functions. Running a company, you need equally well. Definitely, professionals like either Charan's area or Sarvottam's area are very, very important to strengthen the business, to be consistent, to be sustained with growth and profits. So it's very,
Excellent,
very
sir.
crucial.
Excellent. Before I come to you, Sarvotam, there's a misnomer, I would say, or a thought process amongst a lot of entrepreneurs that they think they're doing it right in most cases until they, kind of reach a situation where they have realized it is otherwise. Possibly, if I can take a illustration, is they feel they're compliant until the point they get a love letter from any of the departments. So, your take on how the interdependencies between these three professions could definitely help a entrepreneur.
Yeah, sure. Continuing with what Charan was saying, he's actually beautifully put out many of the aspects. If I can give you certain examples of startups who come on Shark Tank and display their products or services, one of the newspaper reports came out that almost 90% of the companies where the investments were committed by the jury or the judges does not go through. It mainly because of the due diligence process which happens in between the commitment and the actual payout, because the winner of the show or whoever that is, where the judges commit to invest certain percentage of share capital, or through debt or whatever that is subject to a due diligence. I believe that is where Murli sir can add a lot of value in terms of setting the record straight, in terms of documentation and then compliance. Right from the beginning, you will have to, as entrepreneurs, we will have to inculcate the mindset of doing it right without going through AI or without hearing or just by listening to somebody, this is right, this is wrong. That is not how things work, unfortunately. We will have to go through certain processes where professionals like Murli Krishnan sir will come, actually will help you with certain documentations, will handhold you for a certain period of time until you're comfortable, and then probably things are big enough to self-sustain over a period of time. So coming back to the example, so these companies, they think they have made a great brand, or their image has grown to a certain level just by coming into that show. But actually, when people understand that no investments have actually come, what will happen to the brand value? Will they retain there, or will it come down? So there are a lot of questions like this which is not direct from the society or from the community as such, but over a period of time that will take a hit. So therefore interdependency that way is very important, that you are engaged with all sorts of professionals, but at the end it is your child, it is your baby. You have to ensure that they are in a compliant environment with, because it is your signature ultimately. If the love letter comes, it may not come to Murli sir or Charan or myself. It will come to you, addressed to you as entrepreneur, to your registered office address or to your mail ID. So ensure that you are involved with all the professionals in each and every step and try to understand what is happening. Of course, you may not understand in its entirety, but nevertheless, it is always good to get a hang of what signatures you are doing.
Very well said, Savatam. So the next set of discussions which I would want to have with the three of you is probably we could take some recent, case studies where you've handled a client on a particular domain. It'll definitely help our audience in understanding how critical it is to avail a professional help, whether it is advisory, corporate law advisory, or a brand advisory. So while you can think through on these lines, I would like to just give a correlation. In personal finance, we normally say this, right? Gone are the days when people want to buy a house or buy a car. These days people want financial freedom, location freedom, and time freedom. So if I can apply that to what we are discussing, I think Murli sir brings financial freedom to an entrepreneur. Sarvatam brings, I would say, location freedom to an entrepreneur, and Charan brings the time freedom to an entrepreneur. Uh, Murli sir, with his expertise as a startup advisor, who helps in both equity and debt funding definitely gives that financial freedom to any entrepreneur. Sarvatam, with your professional help, if people are not ending up paying any penalties and eventually ending up behind bars, they have location freedom, right? And with Charan's brand building exercise, they make the particular entrepreneur or the company timeless. So I call it time freedom. So I think that logic of location freedom, financial freedom, and time freedom is applicable to entrepreneurs as well. And hence, the importance of availing a startup advisor, having a startup advisor on the panel, having a corporate law consultant in the panel, and a corporate brand consultant in the panel makes more sense to any of us. So over to you to give us few illustrations of how a particular professional help has shaped up in a particular domain. I think we'll go upside down this time. Maybe I'll start with Sarvatam.
Sure, if I can give a couple of examples where I wouldn't entirely say it is the set of professionals who had actually advised in the initial stages, because I cannot blame anybody. At the same time, I cannot blame the ignorance of entrepreneurs who generally are unaware of certain set of laws which are applicable to them. So, in between, what happened? There are certain foreign investments which came into this company. So there are two ways to look at foreign investments. One, if it is repatriable or if it is non-repatriable. Non-repatriable is just one way. The foreign currency is not going out. If the money is not going out, RBI is obviously not concerned. So this money came in, but the company did not take any measures of converting this into a non-repatriable basis. So then got into a lot of issues, mainly with respect to compliance issues. Because if the money is repatriable, you were supposed to file certain returns with RBI within a certain period of time. If not, you will have to take prior approval. So the conversion from repat to non-repat again is subject to prior approval of the RBI. So these things were involved, and in the meantime, the company, the remitter, because he did not choose the right code in which the investment was supposed to come, instead of equity, it was mentioned as debt. So if you are borrowing monies from outside India, it is termed as external commercial borrowing, which again requires prior approval. If the equity amount is coming, then it is straight through foreign direct investment. There is absolutely no questions asked, but then you will have to file certain returns, which is normal compliance activity. But if it is not equity, then it is a debt. If it is a debt, then it is external commercial borrowing. You had to take certain prior approval of the RBI. So the company got into all sorts of problems because of one code which was not mentioned by the investor correctly. Why did the investor do it? Because he was not educated by the bankers. So there are again set of professionals like us who were supposed to guide the company as well as the investors in terms of this. We handled this. Of course, the matter is still before the RBI. We have filed certain applications. RBI is going to take time, but we are hopeful of getting the approval. So once this approval comes, we are going to file certain returns and try to regularize the transactions, whatever has happened. So this, if you look at it in a certain way, I would say it boils down to that one particular code where the remitter has initiated the transaction in favor of the Indian company.
Excellent. So the law is vast, right? So it's impossible for every entrepreneur to know all the acts in place, right?
Yes.
All the acts in force. So always better to have an expert. I'll just take a minute to kind of add to what you mentioned. So I recently had a very interesting conversation with one of the gentlemen. So this is the season of income tax filing, and I believe he's in the process of filing his income tax return. So one source of income, the person paying him the interest or dividend has not deducted TDS, and because of that, there's a tax liability for this gentleman. And because we are beyond the specified period, there's interest levied on tax. So it's saying that for somebody else's fault, I am ending up paying
Yes.
interest. So to
Yes.
kind of uh, do away with these scenarios, it's always better to take professional help. Possibly,
Absolutely.
if he had consulted his tax advisor, paid advance tax, maybe he could have avoided this scenario. Moving to Murli sir, one or two good recent case studies that would help our audience.
See, recently I met a client. So this client is, known for me sometime, but officially got engaged very recently. The thought process for this is a classic case which many entrepreneurs or early stage companies will think about it. There is a revenue traction. Consistently they are making revenue, expenses are under control, break even, and then very recently they are into operational profit also, EBITDA is also positive. So thinking that the company say I'm eligible to get funds now, get me X amount of funds. So when we go to, we searched and I know that there are other things to be done. So we identified one investor and we sat for an initial conversation. First thing the investor asked, how is your brand value? Okay. What is the kind of traction you have on brand side? How many customers? He didn't go get into revenue at all. He went into details about when did you start, what kind of advertisement going on, what channels you are using, what is the thought process behind it, where are you addressing, right? The sequence of question revolving around brand and brand positioning, right? Now the company, the founder also realized, yeah, I need to spend a lot of time because what he pointed out is at this time the business which is coming, it's just like that it happened. Maybe for your known connects, maybe without any sales process or marketing process in place. So he's looking at sustenance, whether it will sustain, right? For another client, everything is there. This question was addressed, and this customers, this client is also about 6 years in business. Vintage is there, business is positive, but in that company there are a lot of notices there. I mean, from, like you said, many love letters from different departments. But if you leave the intensity of the case, there are always small, small things because there was no focus. For there could be any number of reasons. But these are not very serious lapses, but small, small lapses are more in this case.
Yep.
Now, again, the investor said, you clear all this thing, I will come for investment. We'll sit later. Both the cases, revenue is good, expenses are under control, a lot of other processes are in place. But these are two, three, areas where they are missing right now. Now the client, I mean, investor says, you clear all these things, give me a report, and as and when you are ready, we'll sit for next round of discussion. So it's sometimes we get into the mood that okay, I'm making money, business is either break even or profit. Even if it is not, there are some traction. We may miss out investments on this kind of areas also. So it's definitely the unquote message is definitely a lot of things to be done in such cases where definitely we need professionals involvement here. Without that, it won't be possible.
Excellent, sir. Excellent. I think you've given
These are
a
two three
good.
can immediately, but there are many.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you've given a good, pat on the back to the other panelists today. So we'll see what Charan has to say. Over to you, Charan.
So, when I was looking at some examples where there is an interplay between the other fundamental pillars here that we have on the discussion today, so I could think of two examples. Incidentally, both are on the food space. Okay,
Okay.
so in one food brand, I was working with them on their packaging. So for redesigning their packaging. Then suddenly out of the blue, they called me telling like we have a pitching. We are pitching in front of a certain targeted investor forum, and I just want to run by you on our pitch deck. It was never the scope of work for me on that. Probably they had built their pitch deck on their own, or they had taken some advice on nothing. So the point was the data was all there. Okay, whatever they are wanting to tell, the data was all there. But what was really missing there was the connectivity. There's no story arc on what it is about,
Yeah.
so where it starts and why you're doing what you're doing and what it is not there. See, in a lot of times what happens is when they work in silos, they take the input from the advisors, like for example from startup advisors, and they will give their input on how to bring in the right data so that it appeals to the target audience. Okay, but then the people who are investing, I'm sure Murli sir would agree, they are not investing on your business, they are investing on the people.
Correct.
So when you are the person, then there is an arc around your purpose behind what you're doing and how it connects to all the things that you're putting in terms of data point. So I had to work with them on the brand connect and the storyline connect of what you're telling. Why are you doing what you're doing? What's your story? Why are you coming to your table? Why do you even need money? Right. So that is there. So when we put all of this together, even though it was a last minute thing, we had to spend urgent time around it. So the interplay between the data that was available, that was made by, I don't know if they took an advisor's support or not, but it was good data. Probably they had somebody who can help them with that. But then this was missing. So when this all came together, they actually got a shortlist into the next round. Okay,
Very
so
nice.
that happened. So that interplay happened. So this is one simple example where even if you have the right data, then if this is missing, the storyline is missing, then there is some kind of challenge there. Another example is also a food startup where I was not actually working on their packaging, but I was they were working with somebody on the creative side of the packaging design, so on and so forth. I came on board at a later point of time in terms of their brand building exercise. So the first thing I looked at their packaging, I told them like there seems to be a lot of similarity with respect to some of the other brands that exist on an overlap on design. But I'm not the right person to call on the aspect of the overlap. I told them let's take an advice from a person who could help us on with it.
Okay.
I was able to look at it and say this, but I am not the person who can say yes or no. Okay.
Interesting.
But because we see a lot of things on colors and everything, so what they had done in their ideation or the packaging creation was they had focused completely on the creative aspect of it. It was so well designed package. Everything was good. I had no involvement with that. But when I looked at it, I told, hey, there is a kind of a similarity with respect to your package. When we are having this thought at a design level itself, all we have is probably a PDF or a PNG. Then we go to a person like Sarvotam, they can look at it and they can try to cross reference and say what is a kind of a risk that evolves around it, and they can say you can go ahead or you can make some changes around it in this way, or you can completely scrap it. Let's say if they're coming to know of this at a time where they've printed lakhs and lakhs of packages, everything goes to a toss. So you will be at a situation whether, okay, let me go with it. If you're wanting to go with it, the risk of litigation is even more, the cost of litigation is even more higher when you think of how much money you spent on printing those packages. So
Yep.
you lose money on those packages as well. You lose money, and more importantly, as Murli sir mentioned in his example, you lose the brand trust.
Correct.
There's no brand credibility. So these are two examples that I could think of. Incidentally, it came in food space where there are so many things happening, so many startups coming out, and there is left, right, center of legal things that are flying out. So yeah, that is that. We, in fact, we recently we had this issue between Mahindra and Indigo. There was an overlap, but there was, I think they settled out of court. But then even though they were from different
Domains.
industries, Indigo was into one and Mahindra was into another, but still usage of those number and alphabetical coinage, it raised strong reactions. So those are always there. We need to see large organizations like that where they have a stream of people on all fronts. They may have so many people in-house like me or like Sarvotam or like Murli sir, and in spite of that it is blowing out of proportion in the public domain, then that indicates that probably there are still some spaces which needs to be fixed on those fronts as well. So
I think you specifically mentioned about the 6E naming of the vehicle. Okay.
Yeah.
In fact, since you took the examples, illustrations from the food industry, you know, this healthy food concept is another area of discussion which we'll have it for another day. Definitely. And I think if I can summarize what you kind of mentioned, especially for entrepreneurs who are kind of pitching their product or businesses, you know, I think story sells and overselling shelves. So I think that is how we'll have to put it. So let's wrap this episode with a question to each of you. Setting aside which industry the entrepreneur is coming from, what is that one characteristic you see in the entrepreneur with whom you want to work with? What is that one characteristic that you will see before signing an agreement or an MOU with that particular company? Who wants to go first? Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Murli sir,
So
please go ahead,
No, no,
Murli.
go ahead, go
I
ahead.
think because you're a brand consultant, we are more eager to.
See, the first thing or the primary thing that I would when I have a conversation with anybody is, if you are looking for a yes man, then I'm not the person for it. See, if you want somebody who wants to echo your ideas and say what you're doing or what you're saying or what you're wanting to do is wonderful, then we are not setting ourselves for success. See, that does not mean that whatever you're going to do, I'm going to be very critical about it,
Yeah.
but I'm going to put a different lens. Probably you are coming from a different background and looking at it, and I'm going to look at it from a different lens. And wherever I feel that there needs to be a discussion around it, I want that discussion to happen, and I want us to agree upon things and take it forward in a real understanding manner. So that kind of a thing. So where the person is open to taking inputs from the other person, that is very critical. If you're only looking for echo chamber and just a validation, like what you're saying is right, then probably I'm not the person for it, and probably I feel that that is not the right way to go about engaging with any professional as well.
Okay. So you're very clear that you're not a percussionist. Okay. We'll move to Murali Krishnan sir.
Now, I will look at two things. One, the whether the promoter wants to grow, that growth mindset is there. The
Okay.
second aspect I will look at is whether the person is matured,
Okay.
who has mindful about all aspects of business. So two aspects I will look at, because with these two, every other thing comes into, right. You can't ignore one area and focus on one area. The founder or promoter should be have mindful to ensure everything is in place. I
Well said.
look at these two aspects.
Yeah, so I was thinking while the other two gentlemen were making their points, something that strikes me when I am engaging in a first time conversation with a possible or a potential client is whether he'll ask me to send documents through WhatsApp or by mail. It might sound old school, but for me, documentation and record keeping is very important. If somebody says, "Sir, I'll call you for something, I'll WhatsApp you for something," more often than not that turns me off, and potentially I may or I'm inclined to not to take the engagement forward.
I'm glad that all the three of you brought these important points: open-mindedness, maturity, and the growth mindset, and also looking at old school style of working, which is very crucial to any entrepreneur's success. I was expecting one more, but we'll keep it for another day. If I was in your place, I would have said their fee-paying capacity is one thing which I always look at. Anyway, with this, we'll wrap this episode. Thank you, gentlemen, for your presence today. See you soon on the other side.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you all.